On today's show, they're finally back home. We'll preview tonight's matchup between the Ottawa Senators and New York Rangers.
We've got lineups, a number of injury updates, and why it's the right decision to start Leevi Meriläinen tonight.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today is Thursday, December 4th, the first head-to-head meeting between the Rangers and Sens this season, and we hope it picks up right where it left off. Brady Tkachuk scored the overtime game winner after a third period comeback in March right after the deadline.
Yeah, and it's nice to have Brady Tkachuk in the lineup. I feel like he always, whether it's in Ottawa or Madison Square Garden, he always pulls something big up against the New York Rangers.
And we're hoping that continues tonight. Big stories coming into today, though, revolved around a pair of absences for Belleville last night in their loss to the Toronto Marlies. No Stephen Halliday, no Carter Yakimchuk. Twitter
Big
was ablaze.
trade coming up.
Oh, you know that the rumor mill will get spinning in a hurry with how all the insiders seem to think that Steve Staios is willing, maybe not ready, but willing to listen to try to make the Ottawa Senators a better team right now. But no update on Carter Yakimchuk. Could be as simple as having the sniffles and maybe just missed last night's game for that. But without speculating further, we do know the reason why Stephen Halliday was held out of that game. He has been recalled to Ottawa. Lars Eller will not play tonight, so Halliday will go back in that fourth line center role. And Dennis Gilbert, who was called up a few days ago, he will play tonight because Artem Zub is out of the lineup. And we went back and looked, Pilsy, and both Eller and Zub were out for the final minute of the game against Montreal. So all that Travis Green said is their day-to-day.
Yeah, very surprising to see those two guys out of the lineup after I can't recall any kind of slips, falls, them going to the bench in pain, anything like that really between Eller or Zub. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just remembering the good things from a 5-2 loss up against the Montreal Canadiens.
Win.
But or win. Oh, jeez. Holy moly. But yeah, very surprising that those two guys are out, and that changes this lineup in a big way, because you look at the D-core already in trouble with Thomas Chabot out, and we'll get to an update on that from Travis Green as well. But this is why they acquired Dennis Gilbert. You wanted a guy that you're comfortable with to play sometime as a bottom pair left shot defenseman. They had too many righties, which is a weird thing for any NHL team, especially the Ottawa Senators, to have an abundance of right shot defensemen. So they trade Max Gannett for old pal Dennis Gilbert from last season. He's going to get into the lineup tonight. And then you've got Lars Eller out. That means the fourth line center is open again. And I'm glad, Ross, that they've got Stephen Halliday playing there, that they didn't shift Ridley Gregg back to center. I really didn't like that decision. I think Gregg should belong on the wing, and we're going to take a look at that fourth line. But I really like how it shapes up now, because you've got some good physicality with some offensive punch as well.
Yeah, and Dennis Gilbert, really happy to be back with the Sens organization. When I spoke to him last week, just mentioned he thought he was going to get more of an NHL look with Philadelphia. It didn't go that way, and Danny Briere came to him and said, where would you like to go if possible? I want to do right by you. We signed you that deal, and we just don't have space right now in the NHL. And he said, well, I had a great experience in Ottawa, and then the timing just worked out with them having some injuries, and maybe there was going to be this sort of role for him. And then on top of that, Ottawa had the asset in return that they weren't going to sign in Gannett. So Dennis Gilbert is back, and he is paired with Nick Jensen on that third unit. Gilbert did have 3 points in 3 games with Belleville, an assist in each of them, got in a fight in the Laval game. So he's ready to go, and I'm excited to see him back in the lineup. Obviously, wish it wasn't at the expense of Artem Zub, who's coming off just an outstanding game and goal to help Ottawa to that victory. Let's go through the lines right now, because there are some interesting notes to get to there. Then we'll get to the head-to-head look between the Senators and Rangers, how the Rangers line up. That's all coming up next. But for now, we get to the top line. And these 3 lines, it really looks like Ottawa could have found something here. We'll see how it looks on the ice tonight. Tim Stützle between Brady Tkachuk and Fabian Zetterlund. Then you have Dylan Cousins in a familiar place with David Perron and Drake Batherson. The third line, talk about familiar, Shane Pinto, Michael Matteo, and Claude Giroux, the most common line used by the Ottawa Senators this season. And then the fourth line, Stephen Halliday with Nick Cousins and Ridley Gregg. The back end, Jake Sanderson with Jordan Spence, Tyler Kleven with Nicholas Matin-Palo, Dennis Gilbert with Jensen, as I mentioned, and Leevi Meriläinen starts in goal. But Pilsy, I want to focus on that top pair on defense. There's going to be so much pressure, I'll say, on Jake Sanderson tonight with the limited depth behind him and having to take on that shutdown role without his handy Artem Zub with him. Spence and Sanderson have been phenomenal in their ice time this season, but that ice time often comes at times in games where the Ottawa Senators need a goal. They're pressing for offense. Their forwards are being more aggressive because they need to score. I'm going to be really curious to watch that pair in the first period tonight to see how they settle into this game and how much they're trying to push for offense early on.
Well, Ross, that leads perfectly into my locked on player for tonight. It's going to be Jordan Spence. You're getting a big opportunity here. Oh my God, how this season has changed for Jordan Spence from being a healthy scratch to third pair guy to only being elevated because of a Thomas Chabot injury. And now Thomas Chabot and Artem Zub up, and you're playing top pair with Jake Sanderson. And those two have played well together, but it's also going to be interesting because now you're at home. So Travis Green gets the matchups that he wants. But, and no offense to Gilbert and Jensen, but I have a feeling they're not going to get a whole lot of ice time. I think he's going to kind of give them sheltered starts and making sure that he puts them in positions where he feels like there's not too much pressure on them. So that means elevated times for the top two pairs. And then really Tyler Kleven and Nicholas Matin-Palo, that's this team's third pair if everything's going well. So he's not going to put too much pressure on them either, in my opinion. So I think we're going to see a lot of Jake Sanderson and Jordan Spence. And Jordan Spence had his worst game of the season up against Dallas, but then he followed it up with one of his best games of the season up against the Montreal Canadiens. So I think we could really see a confident Spence here being like, all right, coming off a good game, I'm with the best D partner I can be on this team, and I'm going to be used in all situations, basically, because I got to double check the power plays, but is he quarterbacking the second power play?
Correct.
So, I mean, this is when you got traded from LA and that trade call is like, hey, sorry, Jordan, we don't think you're going to get the opportunities here. Maybe you'll get better chances in Ottawa, and then you're healthy scratched. And now top pair, quarterbacking the second power play. You got to make the most of this. So I'm very excited to watch this game tonight.
Yeah, so am I. That second unit will include Spence, Perron, Ridley Gregg, Dylan Cousins down on the second unit now, and Claude Giroux, which leaves the top unit, Jake Sanderson at the top with Brady Tkachuk net front. And then you've got Pinto, Batherson, and Stützle. So Pinto on the top power play unit tonight. Senators power play has been much better at home than on the road, but still a lot of that damage was done early on in the season. It has been a struggle for the Senators to get any real momentum from their power plays. Even in the last number of games where they do score a power play goal, it's just one. They haven't scored 2 power play goals in a game since they scored 4 against the Boston Bruins back on October 27th. That's a span of 16 games where the power play is 4 for their last 43, below 10%. And when you compound that with the penalty kill giving up as much as they have, it's not a recipe for long-term success. But somehow the Senators have been able to withstand that and withstand having one of the worst save percentages as a team in the NHL. And they're still finding themselves in a decent spot as we get into the month of December and a 3-game homestand for the Senators. My locked on player will be Leevi Meriläinen. His numbers at home sparkling. 7-0-1 in his career, including a perfect 3-0 this season, which included some different types of wins, I'll say. They weren't always the prettiest. He wasn't very active in the game against Boston, that 5-3 win. It was his worst statistical game at home, but in the first Boston game, he was solid. And the Utah game was my favorite Leevi Meriläinen start of the season. So those were his last 3 home starts, his 3 home starts this season. And I really like, as you mentioned off the top, that they're making this decision because he needs to play games. He's not going to get better sitting on the bench. And we know Linus Ullmark has not been a 50, 60 start guy in his career, and it was trending in that direction with how often he was playing. So I'm really excited to see Leevi Meriläinen start, and I think we're going to get a good one from him tonight.
Yeah, and Ross, ever since, I forget exactly the timeline we said, maybe it was mid-November, or at least I said, I want to see Leevi Meriläinen playing at least once a week. The Ottawa Senators have basically been doing that, so that's good. And they were playing Linus Ullmark way too much to start this season. Like, it was crazy, especially with how bad he was to start. It just didn't make much sense. So I like that they're much more comfortable giving Leevi starts and allowing Linus Ullmark to get breaks here and there. I think it's going to be beneficial for both. You get the development for Leevi, and you get a little bit of rest for Linus Ullmark. So I'm expecting a big game tonight for Leevi Meriläinen.
And the LOSB stats department has crunched the numbers on Brady Tkachuk because earlier in the show you mentioned that it feels like he's got great games against the Rangers. You'd be correct. 10 goals, 19 points, and a +10 rating in 18 career games against the New York Rangers. So let's hope the captain can build off of scoring his first goal of the season. Brady's sitting with 6 points in 6 games with that 3-assist game in the opener in Tampa, really helping Ottawa to a divisional win. What else needs to happen tonight? We'll look at how both these teams match up head-to-head in key statistical categories and where Ottawa can find themselves at an advantage on home ice tonight. Then, Thomas Chabot. We know he's out, but for how much longer? Those conversations are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push, and especially when your team is finally back from a long road trip. The Ottawa Senators are home at the CTC up against the New York Rangers tonight. Sens are favorites, -140 on the money line. The over-under set at 5.5. So get in on the action and do it with FanDuel. And if you're new, FanDuel is going to give new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our very good friends over at Farm to Fork. If you're a fan of premium, high-quality meats that are locally farmed and delivered straight to your door, we've got great news for you, Ottawa. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get those high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything is flash frozen and individually packaged for your convenience. You know I've always got my freezer stocked with Farm to Fork. They deliver all across Western Quebec and Ontario, even to our friends up in Nunavut. They've got the best meat, the best seafood. It's clean, full of flavor, and delivery is free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even have to leave the house to get this quality. That said, if you're in the area on Carling Avenue, right off the Queensway, 1570A Carling Avenue, you can go chat with Derek and go see for yourself just how awesome Farm to Fork is. Our podcast listeners, we got a deal for you. Locked on $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. That's farm2forkdelivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. That's code Locked On 40 $40 off at farm2forkdelivery.ca. Farm to Fork, delicious locally farmed meats that are delivered straight to your door. All right, Pillsy, it is game day for the Ottawa Senators. It is a 7 o'clock start. You can find it on TSN5, and of course, you can get your boots on the ground. If you're heading to tonight's game, check out the GLEBE Central Pub shuttle. Leave the keys at home and head on the shuttle. Always an absolute blast with that. Pillsy, it's Spotify Wrapped season. What's your listening age? Are you an oldies guy?
I'm not an oldies guy, and also it's this time of year where I'm embarrassed to say I'm not a Spotify guy. I'm an Apple guy. For no reason, I'm not like anti-Spotify or anything. I was always a big iPod guy back in the day, Apple Music, so I just kept everything going on Apple Music. I think they do like a year in review as well, but it's not as trendy as Spotify Wrapped.
Not as hip. What do you think my listening age is? So they took all the music that you like and they kind of classify how old you are based on that.
Well, I know you're a big Swiftie, so I'm going to say Swifties is somewhere in the 20 to 30 range. I know you're a big Morgan Wallen guy as well. It's probably similar age group. My only question is, do you use your phone or Rachel's phone for kids' songs for Lily? Because that'll bump the age down a lot there. So I'm going to guess 26.
68.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Way the other way. And it's probably because Elton John snuck into my top 5.
Nice.
Doing the lawn, like doing chores around the house, just throw on some Elton John on shuffle and it's just a great uplifting tune.
Yeah, Elton John is great. I'm not an oldies guy. I'm the guy that I'm listening to the same music I did in high school over and over and over and over again. So my age is, well, I guess, would they consider what age?
We're getting older, dude.
Would it be like, since I'm 32 and the music I'm listening to in high school would make it that?
Correct. Because they say I listen to a lot of like 70s, 80s. So that means
okay. Exactly. So I'm probably right around my age there. That threw me for a blender there. I'm going to say I'm mid-30s in age group if I had to guess.
Well, we also want to thank everybody who's tagging us in their Spotify Wrapped. The best thing is such a nice uplifting holiday spirit to see how the Sens community comes together, and the fact that you guys enjoy the show, to keep listening and checking us out. We really appreciate it. Shocked at some of the numbers, like our guy Capital City Sens, Frank the Man, 1810, over 11,500 minutes streamed. We got to give that guy a shout out. Everybody, if you do tag us, we'll absolutely love to see it on social media at Sens Central, but got to give a shout out. That is the clubhouse leader right now. So if you can beat it, let's see it.
Yeah, that's got to be literally every minute. I can't think. I thought the 9,000 ones were our top ones. 11,000 has got to be every minute. And I want to give shout out to the YouTube rap people, because there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm a strict YouTube LOSP fan. So we're giving love to those as well, because you get to see our pretty faces and all the beautiful graphics that Ross puts so much time and effort into. So we love our YouTube fans as well.
We got one right here, and we also have a YouTube live tonight. The postcast will be live right after the Senators take on the Rangers. And how does this tale of the tape look? The Ottawa Senators come in with a 13-9-4 record. They are third place in the Atlantic Division, but things are changing very fluidly every single night. Meanwhile, you've got the New York Rangers with the exact same amount of points as the Ottawa Senators, but they've played 2 extra games. The Rangers come in with a record of 14-12-2. Something that you wanted to hit on here, Pillsy, though, was the home versus road splits. Ottawa 6-3-2 at home, but the Rangers, they're one of the better road teams in the league with an 11-4-1 result.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think they got to be the best. They're the only team.
Maybe LA?
No. Well, I mean, depends if you're doing percentage and all that, but they're the only team that has 11 wins on the road this year. And to be 3-8-1 at Madison Square Garden is crazy. I feel like that should be one of those rinks where you get a huge boost from the crowd and just being in that spot. So that's something that definitely needs to be looked at here. But let's not take away from the Sens. They've been gone a long time, but when they are in the nation's capital, they are successful with a 6-3-2 record.
Yeah, you want to get that to more above 500. I know you got the 2 loser points in there, but still, you got to have a good home record. And Ottawa needs to score, and they need to, more importantly, keep it out of their own net. Their 3.31 goals against average is almost an entire goal per game higher than the New York Rangers, who have a 2.61 goals against. Ottawa, though, scoring half a goal more than the Rangers in this season. Shooting percentage, also a big one tonight. Ottawa is scoring on about 12% of their shots, while the Rangers are under 9%. Save percentage, though, the Rangers are dominating Ottawa. It's not even close. And Ottawa with a better power play, Rangers with a better penalty kill. And then you look at the 5-on-5 metrics, they all skew slightly in Ottawa's favor. So I think we're in for a good game tonight. The Rangers are feeling good about their game. They've won 4 of their last 5, and they've got some guys that can turn a game on its head, most notably on their top line, which we will get to now. And that includes #SensAbroad, Mika Zibanejad, top line center between Artemi Panarin and Alexis Lafreniere. The second line is Vincent Trocheck with JT Miller and Johnny Brodzinski. The third line, Noah Laba with Will Cooley and Brett Berard. The fourth line is Sam Carrick with Connor Sheary and Taylor Radish. On the back end, Vladislav Gavrikov with Braden Schneider, Carson Soucy with Will Borgen, and you've got Matthew Robertson with Scott Morrow. We assume it will be Igor Shesterkin that starts in goal. Spencer Martin backing him up. That's because Jonathan Quick is on the injured reserve. Phenomenal start to the season for Jonathan Quick. Also, Norris level defenseman Adam Fox out of the lineup with injury, as well as a couple depth forwards in Matthew Rempe and Adam Edstrom. That is how the Rangers line up, Pilsy. Who are you looking out for tonight?
I will be looking out for the number 1 center sends abroad, Mika Zibanejad. I think a lot of people thought the demise of Zibanejad was coming last year because he had a down year, especially in the plus minus, where he was -22. Now, he is a -7 this year in 28 games, but he does have 9 goals, 11 assists. But where I'm really going to be looking out for Zibanejad is special teams. He leads the Rangers with 6 power play goals, so 6 of his 9 goals on the power play, and then 1 of them shorthanded. So he's only scored 2 even strength goals of his 9, and we know the Ottawa Senators penalty kill has been struggling, so I'm really going to be keeping an eye out for Zibanejad there. He's been doing really well in the faceoff dot this year, 53.3. And interesting to note, Ross, because the New York Rangers are without Adam Fox, massive loss in their lineup. They're running a 5-forward power play unit, their top unit. So that's going to be snapping it around and probably a little less controlled when you don't have that guy to calm everything down like Fox. So I'm going to be looking for Zibanejad to kind of be that guy that's going to be facilitating there. And he's probably going to be trying to facilitate to Panarin or faking the pass to Panarin and scoring himself, as he's been the guy that's been lighting the lamp on the man advantage. So it always stings watching Zibanejad come back, but he's a guy you got to look out for.
Yeah, you definitely do. He's a guy that, felt like he was on the way out of New York, kind of like the Kreiders and the Trubas of the world. They hang on to him. He's obviously got a massive price tag and term that goes along with it. So easier said than done to move off of him. He has had success against Ottawa with over a point per game, 22 points in 19 career games for the former Sens' 6th overall pick in the 2011 draft. I'm not going to get to Galaxy brain with my lookout player. It's Artemi Panarin. And in the last month, since November 7th, Artemi Panarin is 3rd in the National Hockey League in scoring, behind only Nathan McKinnon and Jason Robertson. He's got 21 points last 14 games. The offense moves through Panarin. He is a dangerous player that can beat you by himself. And he's a guy, if you're not looking out for, could have 2 points in the first period and carry his way from there. He is, though, much more the facilitator. He has been in the past in his career a goal scorer 2 seasons ago at 49 goals. Is that good? But this year, 20 assists, only 8 goals, and none on the power play. So he's a guy that has been scoring at even strength with all 8 of his goals coming in that situation, but definitely going to be looking out tonight for Artemi Panarin. That's how the New York Rangers line up. We'll get into some other storylines from this game on the other side, plus a Thomas Chabot injury update. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. It's not your average sports drink, guys. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top colleges and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as a part of my daily routine. So convenient. Just mix a packet in the morning before you go to the gym or during a midday slump. And it's got to taste good to keep me coming back. And my go-to flavor is strawberry lemonade. So delicious. Hydration is non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just better overall. So right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On Senators podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop.
All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators. Of course, we'll have the postcast for you live after the game, so hit that notification bell on YouTube and be the first in the chat. You can also head there during the game if you want to chat with some other citizens about what you're seeing on the ice. It is a 7 o'clock game tonight, so expect that around 10. But for now, we'll get into a couple other storylines for tonight's game. And looking at the New York Rangers back end, I know they're missing Adam Fox, but even if he was here, I just don't see a whole lot of depth there. I know they're excited about Scott Morrow. He was a phenomenal college hockey player, but hasn't really made the jump yet. He was a part of the Keandre Miller trade, actually, from Carolina last summer. Yep. But he's a guy that I think is that offensive defenseman that they're going to try to elevate with Fox out of lineup. I'm assuming he'll see some power play time, but if I'm the Ottawa Senators, he's a guy I'm circling on the board tonight and saying you have to be physical with this guy. Don't let him get comfortable breaking pucks out and that sort of thing. And I think that's true to be said for this entire D-core. I know Gavrikov is a great defensive defenseman. Braden Schneider's starting to find his own, but I think that's an advantage Ottawa, where how well we talked yesterday about them defending in the offensive zone after pucks are either turned over or picked up. That's going to be a key for me, is Ottawa's forecheck and offensive zone defense are going to have to be at their best.
Yeah, I mean, Gavrikov is a really good player. Don't overlook him, Ross. They signed him to a big 7-year deal as an unrestricted free agent, and that's a big reason why they were able, or felt they were able, to let go of who went to Carolina. I'm blanking on his name there.
Keandre Miller. Thank you. Yeah, and Gavrikov is having a nice season with them so far. 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points in 28 games, and a +7 now. I would imagine that makes it's a lot easier when you've got Adam Fox there as well, because now he's going to be relied upon a lot more. But that's also, I would say he's the top guy on that blue line with Fox out. So you got to be looking out for him too. Yeah, you certainly do. Let's stick on the blue line, but with the Ottawa Senators, tons of offense from the back end against Montreal. 6 points combined from the defensemen. But you're going into tonight's game now with a bit of a different look, with no Zub, who is second in points among Senators defensemen, I may add. Obviously, games played have something to do there, but still great to see the offensive start for Zub. We hope that it is truly just day-to-day that he's out of the lineup. They're going to have to replace over 20 minutes per game with that. But Jordan Spence, to me, is a guy to watch. So, too, is Tyler Kleven. Would you say Kleven's coming off his best game as an Ottawa Senator?
I don't know about best game as a Senator, because I liked how he played in the playoffs. But certainly the best game of this season, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So let's hope that Kleven can continue that. But the man that's out, needing Kleven to replace those minutes, is Thomas Chabot. And still no word really on what the injury is. But Travis Green did say this morning he will be out about 10 more days or so. So hopefully he'll be back at practice in the next few, and we can see him on that 3-game road trip that goes Columbus, Minnesota, and Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, we're both hoping he's there in Winnipeg. I believe he missed the last Winnipeg game. I was there too. I saw him at what's that place called? The Market?
Yeah, Hargrave Market.
Yeah, very cool spot.
3-game spot. We'll be there before the game. We had some people reach out who are going, so we'll see you at the rink.
Yeah, exactly. But it always makes me nervous, Ross. Brandon Piller, not a doctor, but when players hurt themselves on non-contact injuries, especially when it's a re-aggravation of the same injury, all we know is that it's upper body, but you could tell Thomas Chabot shot that puck and just immediately winced and head to the bench, and that was it for him. So hopefully he can come back sooner than later. I know Thomas Chabot isn't always everyone's favorite defenseman on the Ottawa Senators, but despite how this D-corps played up against Montreal, up against Dallas, it was very noticeable, but that there were some weaknesses here. And then you've got Artem Zub out as well. So this is not the D-corps the Ottawa Senators wanted to be trotting out there. That's for sure. So hopefully it's not for much longer.
Let's play a little game and let us know in the comments your best guess. How much time on ice does Jake Sanderson get in this game?
Over under, I think 26.5. I think that's probably a good mark.
His season average is just over 24.5. So you're saying he's 2 minutes over that tonight.
I think that, right? Like, I'm going to say I would hit the over on that. I'm going to guess 27-15.
Okay.
Well, it depends if it goes regulation, overtime or what. But if it's regulation, I'll say 27-15. He's going to be out there a lot.
Yeah, he's on a sneaky little streak right now, hey, in terms of offensive production. He's got at least a point in each of his last 4 games, a total of 3 goals over that span. And he can even go back after he was held off the score sheet for 4 consecutive games that ended with the point against Dallas, the first meeting against the two teams. He's got 10 points his last 10 games. So I really like a Jake Sanderson point tonight with all the ice time that he's going to get and the way he's playing right now. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is the Belleville Senators were in action last night up against the Toronto Marlies. Unfortunately, a 4-3 regulation loss to the Marlies. They got outshot and outplayed big time here, Ross. Outshot 31-22. They did get a power play goal, and of course,
guess who?
Arthur Galiev is the guy that got it. Shout out Peelsy getting on the board too. And Ross, I don't know. Logan Shaw leaving Belleville and playing for the Marlies and the captain of the Marlies always rubbed me the wrong way because I really liked him. We've had him on the show. He had his dad on the show as well. Just absolute salt of the earth beauties. So I really wish he could have stuck around a little longer. So it sucks seeing him score up against the Belleville Sens. And that was one you wanted to win. They got to win these division rival matches, especially coming off a bad weekend up against Providence. So they are now on a 4-game losing streak, and they're barely hanging on to that last playoff spot in the North Division.
Yeah, they need to get some wins together here soon. As we mentioned, no Carter Yakimchuk in the game last night. The goal scorers were Kaliev, Pilon, and Ole Lixell, who's off to a nice offensive start down there after going back down with the injury while playing with the Senators. He's got 3 goals and an assist in 4 games since coming back down. So good to see for him, healthy and thriving in a top role in Belleville. We've got the boys are back in town. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing the black jerseys coming out on the ice. We hope it's a Lyndon Slewage game. We know that the first 10 minutes of this game could be a tone setter. So get to your seat early, get your popcorn, dial it in. And we've got Senators hockey from the Canadian Tire Center tonight against a Rangers team that I don't know if the stats back it up, but I feel like the last couple of years, other than that 7-0 loss last season where the Sens just didn't show up for that game, complete no-show. Kaliev scored 2 goals, speaking of him, for the New York Rangers in that game. I feel like the Senators have done pretty decent against the Rangers over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I have so many memories of Brady Tkachuk goals up against the Rangers.
Yeah, the overtime one where he tied it late in the third.
Yeah,
Sens are 1-4-0 in their last 5 against the Rangers. Sick call by me.
Oops.
That's crazy.
Oh, boy.
So let's get Let's get back to 500 in the last 10. Sens are 4-6-0 in the last 10 against the Rangers, but I really do think Ottawa's going to put on a show for the crowd tonight that's waited 15 days to see their boys in action. We'll chat in the postcast after the game. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. If you have us on your Spotify Wrapped, shoot us a note on social media at Sens Central. We truly appreciate that. And leave a 5-star review while you're at it on your favorite podcast platform. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.